All right, well, we're going to continue on the question uh, describing the differences between homophobia and heterosexualism. Kim, I don't know if you remember where you left off at, but.
Yeah, so we were talking about the difference of when we break down the two words, homophobia would be fear of homosexuals, which are queer gay folks. Whereas, and you had asked, is that the same as like being fearful of being
Being
gay?
like masculine.
Being masculine?
Like, yeah, it's heterosexism, like the fear of being like
Not
being masculine enough.
So heterosexism isn't a fear. It's more like, what does society bias against? What is the privilege for? So heterosexism would be that if I, as a straight person, would have more privilege and be able to exist in the world more safely than say an LGBTQI person would be able to.
Okay.
And when we think about that in hip hop, that's why this topic specifically is a big one in hip hop right now. Because when we think about it, like how many, at least in mainstream hip hop, is being gay, your sexuality, being something that is not heterosexual, accepted, and often not.
Yeah.
So that's where like there's a bias and a prejudice against homosexuals, queer folks versus heterosexuals within hip hop within our society. That's heterosexism, whereas homophobia would be the fear of.
Okay, that explains actually a lot. What do you think? What do you do to push against and advocate against the topic of heterosexism?
I would say, I'm gonna use the term, but I would say that I'm an ally for sure of the LGBTQI community. I got training at SF State to be an ally and to know like what references and referrals and resources to give, what kind of language to use. I also think with something like cocktails, it's a perfect space to be able to push against these boundaries and create dialogue. That's why I love cypher and I love writing and being a poet, because you can create spaces to have discussions in language. And something like cocktails is a big space, an institutional space where you can start to talk about how is masculinity within sexism also directly tied to gender and sexuality within heterosexism.
Okay, so that was just what I was about to ask. Like, how does like the LGBT community like? I don't know if I would say coincide with that. Does that make sense? Like, how does that like relevant with the whole heterosexism community, like the whole heterosexism topic? Like, how do they interact? Like,
you get LGBTQ community?
Yeah, with heterosexism. Like, what's the relevance there?
So if heterosexism is about sexuality, then LGBT is about women being lesbian, men being gay, or both, or on a gender spectrum.
Okay.
So basically, anything outside of being, I am a male attracted to and only wanting women, and I am a woman only wanting men, and anything outside of that construct would be something that is oppressed by the system of oppression of heterosexism.
Okay, that even explains it even more. Okay, cool.
Alright, so I was asking a few of my friends and some students around campus if they know what heterosexualism is, and they said they didn't even know it was a real thing. So then, what do you think students should do to become more aware about the topic, about it? Like, how do you think we could teach and let people know that this is a real thing,
like
this is a real problem?
My initial thought is like the first step would be to think about who are the primary people within this system of oppression that are being targeted, right, and impacted in a negative way. And so the first people I think of are, we're saying, the LGBTQI community, the queer community. So then as students, what you should do is to definitely align with them and speak to their organizations, or see even like research and see what their different events are about. If you feel comfortable to attend one of their meetings and hear the different topics they talk about. Or just within the community, try to find things, especially in the Bay Area. You're gonna find tons of events and tons of things that are related to this. Just going to one and learning more. And engaging in conversations. I think the fact that you even ask your friends, do you know what heterosexism is? Like that's a conversation. That's
spreading
already
awareness.
putting something in people's heads. Can I add? Okay.
yeah.
I also think
All the
with
time.
our generation, the best way to do that as students is also within social media. And I know that's part of your finals to do the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you are able to use your own personal platforms, or like say you are a part of a club or organization, use those to be able to spread messages much easier. Because I know we all work, we can't be on campus all the time. So the best way you can do that is reposting articles, reposting tweets, or whatever you do,
Okay.
sharing the knowledge.
Let's see. I don't know. Let's see here.
Can I ask questions then?
Yeah,
Go
sure.
ahead.
So how do you think you both are influenced by heterosexism?
I mean, growing up, just like even me, like doing like the whole rap thing. Like I mean, and just like growing up in general in this generation, you hear like, "Oh, you gay as fuck, bro." Like if you do, or you know what I mean, like or no homo. That's a thing that like people use a lot. Like I'm not even gonna lie. Like I have to just be real. I've used that before. You know, nobody's perfect. And like the whole thing is like, oh, like somebody sitting too like one of your brothers sitting too close. And, oh, no homo, bro. Like, and like it became like that whole no homo thing became like. I feel like a lot of the times like. That's your own insecurities. You know what I mean? Like, and you gotta just be more like, you gotta be comfortable with your own sexuality and know who you are in order to like, really like start to understand someone else's situation and just be like, just because you're not like part of, like thinking the same way they are or have those type of feelings doesn't mean that you gotta knock it. You know what I mean? Because like that the rap community especially like the hip hop like now from what it's becoming to it's just like all about you know like oh who can get the more females and you know like who got like the bigger chain and the bigger this and the bigger that like so they can attract the females. So like and I think it definitely rubs off on people that aren't educated about topics when they see like the people that they idolize talking about gay people or transgenders like this, like it's easy. They're easily influenced.
Oh, me. Personally, since I grew up very diverse, I knew a lot of gay people and I knew like a bunch of minorities and everything. So I didn't know how big of a deal it was and that it was actually hated against until I got into high school. So it was just very normal for me growing up. I didn't see it as an issue or anything to make a big deal out of. So now knowing how much of an impact this can make on people's lives is very like, I don't know how to phrase it, like it's just shocking that it could happen, like to the point where people are hated on based off their personal preferences. Because this is their personal preferences. It shouldn't be. No one else should have any say on what they find attractive or what they consider appealing. Like that's their cup of tea. Like their personal preferences is their personal preferences. So I feel like no one else should have any say on what is okay and what is considered the norm.
And like if I could add, like I also find like in a lot of religions they say like you know what I mean you gotta be against gay like this and that like being you know a homosexual is not okay. You know you're gonna go to hell for that. You know what I mean? And like imagine somebody that grew up in a religious household and hearing that their whole life and then they have these feelings and they can't control them, you know, like and they feel like a lot of people will kill themselves for like the reasons like that. I'm sure there are people that kill themselves. So it's just kind of like it's kind of the same thing in hip hop because like you're hearing it, and like you're